Thank the gentleman. And the gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Van Duyne.
Thank you very much. Secretary Yellen, earlier today you committed to closing the carried interest loophole. Unfortunately, this has become a popular punchline that is just not true. For a lot of new and emerging entrepreneurs across the country who don't come from Wall Street or wealthy backgrounds, carried interest is the sweat equity that they've put into their business. It's the work that they've put into growing their business. And I look forward to working with my tax team colleagues to better educate members of Congress on the opportunity that carried interest provides and the longstanding tax policy principles that it's based on. Last year, you testified and said, quote, progress has been made on inflation, but there was still work to be done, unquote. Unfortunately, not much has changed in the last year. Inflation hasn't gotten any better. Energy prices haven't gotten any better, and we continue to see housing prices at record highs. Under this administration, prices have increased nearly 20%, and real wages have fallen by nearly 4%. That affects people who are making less than $400,000. And yet the president's budget put out earlier this year continued broke policies that exacerbate this problem. In your testimony, you claim the administration is taking actions to bring down the cost of key household expenses like energy, but that is not true. The Biden administration's desire to harm American energy continually through tax increases on domestic energy production is the weaponization of the tax code against all Americans, including those making less than $400,000. During your Senate Finance hearing, you said traditional energy companies have had significant tax benefits that tilted the scales. And the Treasury Green Book, the administration's tax proposal, says, quote, these traditional oil, gas, and coal preferences encourage more investment in the fossil fueled section that would occur in a neutral system, and this market distortion is detrimental to long-term energy security. Do you really believe that oil and natural gas production is detrimental to the long-term energy security?
Well, to give preferences right now, when we understand
Aren't you doing that with 3 new policy deals, giving preferences, picking winners and losers?
Well, we pick winners and losers, but they have to be ones that are positive for what is an existential threat, which is
so you
climate
believe
change.
then that oil and gas, natural production, is an existential threat, and that will is somehow better to cut all of that production for our long-term energy security?
No one is saying to cut all that production,
So
but there's no we will be dependent on this for a long time, but there's no reason.
Is it the administration's goal to shut down energy companies and change the rules to basically make it impossible to operate profitably?
It is not. That is not the administration's objective, but there's no reason why we should be giving tax preferences.
But is tilting the scales toward green energy worth the security risk by buying oil from adversaries such as Venezuela?
We're promoting clean energy and renewable.
We are buying it from countries. We are buying it from countries that produce it in a much dirtier manner than any place in the U.S. And that is what your policies are forcing us to do right now. Earlier, you talked about the corporate rate in the U.S. as my colleague, Congressman Moore, has alluded to. The U.S. has been at a, quote, race to the bottom. Did the Tax Cut and Jobs Act lower the corporate rate to the lowest in the OECD?
It's among the lower in the OECD.
I fail to see how this is the bottom then. I mean, under the president's budget, according to the Tax Foundation, the U.S. would have the second, not the lower to the bottom, but would have the second highest corporate rate in the world. Is this something that the Treasury is proud of?
Over decades, corporate tax rates have declined.
It would be the second highest corporate rate in the world.
I don't believe that 21% is the second highest in the world.
I have other questions, but I also want to make sure that I have some of my other colleagues have an ability to ask them. With my 1 minute left, I yield.